Have you ever looked at an old photo of yourself and felt like you were staring at a complete stranger? The smile is familiar, but the eyes seem different, maybe lighter, more innocent, or simply untouched by the weight of everything that came afterward. That quiet realization can sometimes be the first whisper of a psychological revolution, a signal that you may be living what Henry David Thoreau famously described as a life of quiet desperation. This desperation is not an explosion. It is not the day everything suddenly falls apart. It is a slow, invisible heaviness, the feeling that settles in when you realize you are living far beneath your actual potential. You have accepted a smaller version of your life, while the person you might have become seems to be standing somewhere in another dimension, silently watching you from a place you can no longer reach. The tragedy of the human condition is that most of us become trapped inside patterns we cannot seem to break. We tell ourselves, someday I'll change. Someday I'll finally get serious. Someday I'll leave that job. Someday I'll begin that project. Someday I'll become the person I know I could be. And then, one day, you realize something terrifying. Someday never actually came. We wake up to alarms that feel like tiny deaths. We spend our days watching the clock like prisoners counting down a sentence. And by the time evening arrives, we are exhausted. Not necessarily because we worked too hard, but because we spent so much energy suppressing the person underneath the life we built. This is the psychology of self-transformation. A brutal process, a beautiful process, and sometimes a terrifying one. Because to build a life that is more truthful to who you really are, you first have to dismantle many of the things you once believed were you. And if we want to understand how transformation happens, we have to begin by decoding the architecture of the cage we built around ourselves. The mask you forgot you were wearing. Much of our lives are governed by what Carl Jung called the persona. The persona is the social mask we wear to be accepted, to avoid being rejected by the group, to be loved, to be approved of. From a very early age, we begin learning that love does not always feel unconditional. Sometimes we receive more of it when we behave, when we achieve, when we are useful, when we do not disappoint anyone. And so we begin shaping ourselves like clay. We smooth out the parts that make other people uncomfortable. We hide desires that seem too dangerous. We remain silent about what we actually want. We learn how to read the room before we ever learn how to read ourselves. And over time, you can become so good at making everyone around you comfortable that you forget what makes you feel alive. You begin living according to a collective map. Everyone goes to college, so you go to college. Everyone searches for a stable job, so you search for a stable job. Everyone buys a house, gets married, tries to climb some invisible ladder, so you do the same. You turn left simply because everyone around you is turning left. It does not mean you are fake. It does not mean you are weak. You are simply trying to become good enough inside a world that often rewards security more than growth. But Jung warned that there is a price to spending your entire life on the safe road. You may avoid a great deal of failure, but you also avoid many of the experiences capable of transforming you. And eventually, the psyche begins to protest. It might arrive as anxiety you cannot explain, a strange heaviness every Sunday evening, a feeling of dread when you walk into the office on Monday morning, or a quiet emptiness that remains even after you finally achieve the thing you spent years believing would make you happy. You can have a respectable career, money, a relationship, a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside, and still hear a tiny voice asking, "Is this really all there is?" The normal reaction is to make that voice disappear. More Netflix, more food, more work, more scrolling, more achievement. Anything that prevents you from sitting still long enough to hear what it is trying to say. But sometimes those uncomfortable feelings are not the enemy. They are signals. They may be telling you, the way you are living no longer fits the person you are becoming. And real transformation usually begins only when the pain of remaining the same finally becomes greater than the fear of changing. The space between who you were and who you are becoming here is the problem. When you begin leaving an old identity behind, you do not immediately become the new version of yourself. There is an uncomfortable space between the two. Psychology and anthropology often refer to it as liminal space, a threshold. You are no longer completely who you used to be, but you do not yet know who you are becoming. Your old job stops feeling meaningful. Old conversations no longer interest you. Goals that once excited you suddenly feel hollow, but the new path has not yet revealed itself. Jung described this intermediate condition in a way that resembles a caterpillar inside its cocoon. The old structure has to dissolve before something new can emerge, and that is why transformation rarely feels like progress while it is happening. It can feel like confusion, like becoming a ghost inside your own life. You still wake up, you still eat, you still go to work, you still talk to people, but some part of you has already withdrawn its energy from the roles you used to inhabit, and this is where many people panic. They think, something is wrong with me, so they run back into the old cage because at least the cage is familiar. But it is precisely at this threshold that deeper work begins. Shadow work. Meeting the parts of yourself. Jung called it confronting the shadow. The shadow contains the parts of yourself you learned to reject, the anger you were taught you should not feel, the ambition someone once called selfish, the desire to be seen, your envy, your fear, your hunger for power, your competitiveness, your strange creativity, and sometimes even your greatness. Because we do not only bury the bad parts, we also bury the parts that shine too brightly. In Jungian psychology, this is sometimes described as the golden shadow. The talent you learned to minimize so other people would not feel threatened. The ambition you hid because you were afraid people would call you delusional. The confidence you made smaller so you could belong. You can sometimes see the golden shadow in the people you idolize. The person who fascinates you may be expressing a quality you abandoned inside yourself. And sometimes the person who irritates you most is reflecting something you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. We project the shadow outward and convince ourselves that the problem exists entirely in the world. They are judging me. They think I'm not good enough. They're going to laugh if I fail. But very often, the loudest judge is not outside you. It has been living inside you for years. Shadow work does not mean becoming dark. It means no longer wasting energy pretending the darkness is not there, because what you refuse to see will continue controlling you from behind. But what you can finally look at directly begins to lose its power. You are not just changing your mind, you are changing your brain. What is fascinating is that this seemingly philosophical or spiritual journey has a very physical foundation. Your brain changes according to what you repeatedly do. Neural connections become stronger when they are used again and again. Pathways that are used less frequently can gradually weaken. So when you constantly repeat beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I always quit, I'm just not disciplined, you are not merely saying words, you are rehearsing a pathway. But the opposite is also true. Every time you challenge an old belief with a new action, you give your brain a different piece of evidence. You say, I always quit, but today you still worked for 10 minutes. New evidence. You say, I'm not a disciplined person, but this morning you did what you promised yourself you would do. Another piece of evidence. Identity does not always have to change before behavior. Very often, behavior is what gradually rewrites identity. But your brain also has another tendency. It loves familiarity. It loves knowing what happens next, even when the familiar pattern makes you miserable. That is why you can genuinely want to transform, while simultaneously feeling an invisible force pulling you back toward your old life. You start exercising. 3 days later, you stop. You begin a new project. A week later, you are back on YouTube. You decide to wake up early, and the next morning, a voice appears. Forget it. Start tomorrow. You call it a lack of willpower. But part of the problem is that your system is trying to return you to what it already knows. So if your entire strategy is, this time I'll just try harder, you are betting your future on an emotion that changes every day. Instead of only increasing willpower, change the environment. If you want to read, put the book somewhere your hand reaches before your phone. If you want to exercise tomorrow morning, prepare your clothes tonight. If TikTok steals 2 hours of your day, stop keeping your phone beside your desk and hoping a stronger version of you will suddenly appear. Put it in another room. The less friction a good behavior has, the more likely it is to happen. The more friction a bad behavior has, the less likely you are to do it. Do not only design the goal, design the road that leads to it. From I'm trying to this is who I am. The deepest transformations happen when you move from doing to being. Instead of I'm trying to read more, move toward I'm a reader. Instead of I'm trying to work out, I'm someone who takes care of my body, instead of, I'm trying to become disciplined. I'm the kind of person who does what needs to be done. But this is important. You cannot simply stand in front of a mirror, repeat that sentence 50 times, and call it an identity shift. Your brain needs evidence. Every action is a vote. No single vote determines who you are, but hundreds of votes begin to form an identity. One way to make that easier is through habit stacking. Attach a new behavior to something that already happens automatically. After brushing your teeth, meditate for 2 minutes. After making coffee, write 3 lines. After sitting down at your desk, open the important document before opening your inbox. You do not need to rebuild your entire life overnight. You need to begin producing consistent evidence for the person you want to become. Stop waiting until you feel ready. This is where the philosophy behind Morita Therapy becomes incredibly useful. We tend to believe our emotions have to change first. When I stop being afraid, I'll begin. When I feel more confident, I'll post the video. When motivation comes back, I'll exercise. When I finally feel ready, I'll start the business. But you might be waiting for a very long time. A more useful principle is this: allow the feeling to exist, and do the necessary action anyway. You can be afraid and still send the email. You can feel insecure and still publish the video. You can feel sad and still go for a walk. You can doubt yourself and still complete an hour of work. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act while fear is still sitting beside you. And this is where there is a trap I especially want you to notice. You can understand everything in this video and still change absolutely nothing tomorrow. You can take notes about the persona, research shadow work, read more about neuroplasticity, download 5 podcasts about identity, watch 10 videos about discipline, and turn the process of learning how to change into the most sophisticated way of avoiding change. Understanding yourself creates a feeling of progress, but the feeling of progress is not progress. Eventually, you have to close the book, turn off the video, and do something that exists in the physical world. That is also why I created the 14-day discipline game, not to give you another 200 pages of theory to read, highlight, and forget. I built it to address the exact gap between I understand that I need to change and what exactly am I supposed to do tomorrow morning? Over 14 days, you move from clarifying one goal, reverse mapping the path toward it, and protecting a fixed block of time each day, to building a minimum loop small enough that you can still complete it when motivation disappears, and then preparing a boss fight and a safety valve for the day you inevitably fall off track. Because the question is not whether you will have a bad day. You will. The real question is, do you have a system that helps you return? The link is below if you feel like you need that kind of structure. But do not buy it simply because this video made you emotional. If you know you are going to download it and leave it untouched beside 47 other open tabs, keep your money. Instead, when this video ends, choose one action from it and do that for free. Because buying one more thing about changing your life and never using it is simply a more sophisticated version of the cage we are trying to escape. Memento Mori. You do not have infinite time. There is an ancient psychological tool capable of cutting through almost every excuse. Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. That sounds dark. But its purpose is almost the opposite. Steve Jobs once said that remembering he would die was one of the most important tools he had encountered for making major decisions. Because when you place your life against the reality of its limited duration, many things suddenly become very small. Embarrassment, pride, fear of what other people think. Fear of failure, the need to prove that you are right. Try asking yourself one question. If you knew you had only 5 years left, would you continue living exactly the way you are living now? If the answer is no, what exactly are you waiting for? The frightening thing is not death itself. The frightening thing is arriving at the end and realizing you spent most of your life protecting a version of yourself you never truly wanted to become. Individuation, becoming whole. The destination of this journey is what Jung called individuation, not becoming perfect, becoming whole. You stop dividing yourself into categories. This part is acceptable. This part must remain hidden. This part is lovable. This part is shameful. And you begin integrating all of it, your tenderness and your aggression, your ambition and your compassion, your light and your darkness, your confidence and your vulnerability. You stop requiring the external world to constantly prove that you have value. You begin developing what we might call internal authority, the ability to say, this is what I feel, this is what I want, this is the direction I choose. without needing an invisible committee to vote in favor of your decision. You realize you do not have to remain useful every second in order to deserve existence. You do not have to become successful before you are allowed to respect yourself. You do not need other people to understand your path before you begin walking it. You stop merely reacting to circumstances and begin becoming the author of your story. Maybe you are not stuck. Maybe you are growing roots. If you are currently in a strange season of your life, a quiet season, a confusing one, a lonely one, a quiet season, a confusing one, a lonely one, where nothing seems to be moving, do not be too quick to assume that nothing is happening. A tree does not only grow in the direction human eyes can see. Before it can rise high enough, it has to grow deep enough. There are seasons of life where progress does not happen horizontally. You are not making more money. You are not becoming more famous. There are no obvious achievements. You are developing vertically, downward. You are strengthening the structure that may eventually support a larger version of your life. Perhaps the years you think you wasted taught you exactly what you do not want. Perhaps the dead end forced you to turn around. Perhaps the failure shattered an identity that needed to die. That does not mean suffering should be romanticized, but do not immediately assume that every painful season was wasted time. Some things can only develop in darkness. Name the season you are in. Sometimes, to leave a difficult season, you first need to perform a very simple act. Witness yourself. Name what is happening. Maybe you are in the season where the old shell is cracking, the season of confusion, the rebuilding season, the season of learning to act while still afraid, the season of returning after years of procrastination. The name itself does not matter. What matters is that you stop running from your own experience long enough to actually see it. Because once you can observe the shadow instead of becoming the shadow, it begins losing its power. Transformation is not a makeover. It is not becoming an entirely different person. At the deepest level, it is the process of remembering who you were before the world handed you a long list of things you were supposed to become. And if something inside you moved while listening to this video, perhaps the old shell is finally beginning to crack. But do not simply sit there admiring the cracks. Use them as an exit. When this video ends, do not immediately open another one. Put down your phone, stand up, and perform one physical action in the direction of the person you want to become. Send the email, write the opening paragraph, post the video, walk for 10 minutes, clean the desk, open the document. Do something small but real. Because one imperfect action in the real world is worth more than 1,000 perfect versions of yourself that exist only inside your imagination. If you want a structure for turning those small actions into a 14-day system, the 14-day discipline game is linked below. If not, that is completely fine. You already have enough to begin right now. Subscribe if you want to continue exploring the deepest hidden forces shaping the human mind with us. And in the comments below, do not tell me about the person you are going to become someday. Write this instead. I am in the phase of blank, and today I will blank. Fill in those two blanks. One names your present, the other creates an action. Because your future self does not need another promise from you. It needs evidence. And the first piece of evidence can begin today.